You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious!
Now, I'm about to speak to someone, which I've had an interest in what I'm going to speak to this person about for, well, about a decade, indirectly, because we were speaking about the former Premier, Daniel Andrews' disgraceful government of corruption and dishonesty, about particularly Ian Cook's I Cook Foods, when that government manipulated evidence erroneously and fraudulently to get his I Cook Foods business out of business in preference to having the government-run community chef take over I Cook Foods business. And they dishonestly, fraudulently and disgracefully ran him out of business. And one of the people who was trying to get some justice for I Cook Foods, Ian Cook, was a bloke called Paul Brady, who, when we got onto another matter about an accident that the former Premier Daniel Andrews had when he collided when he had an accident with young Ryan Newman, Paul Brady said some extraordinary things. This is like 8 years ago when we did the podcast, and he said some extraordinary things that have gathered momentum and are still rocking on today, because there is some tremendous controversy and conspiracy theories about what went on, and so I was alerted to the fact that a former leading senior constable at Rosebud was taking up the cudgels, if you like, about trying to get some justice for the Newman family and Ryan Newman, and had found out a whole lot of things which weren't done by the book and in fact were swept under the carpet. But I'm not putting words in his mouth, but he's done a podcast called Bike Boy, and it's had tremendous interest, because if you can't trust the people who govern you when their private lives and even in fact their public lives affect you, then who can you trust? So this is what this is about. So I'm about to speak to, as I said, the former leading senior constable of the Rosebud Police Force, Scott Hanley, who has a podcast out called Bike Boy. So welcome, Scott.
Thank you, Sam. Thanks for having me, mate.
It's a pleasure. So the first thing I want to ask you is, just so do you have an axe to grind with the former Premier, or why did you leave the police force, or why are you doing this?
Good question to start, Sam. Look, I don't have any grudge to do with. I mean, I've done this solely, without any political bias. Left the police force in 2018 because I actually did my back. So yep. I got pensioned out through the police force. I've had a few surgeries on my back, so I left at about, I was in there for, I think it was 45 when I left, so my skill set was very limited. I went in the police force young, didn't know much else, no trade, nothing to fall back on, apart from investigation sort of skills, so I thought, bugger it, what am I going to do? I'll become a private investigator, and that's what I did. And
you became a private investigator, and this is one of the things you're investigating at the behest of whom? The Newman family? Did they contact you, or did you contact them and say you might be interested in some information I have? How did that happen, Scott?
How did it happen, Sam? Well, it happened very simply. I actually got on social media on Facebook an ex-police member there's 3 ex-police involved in this investigation, but reached out to a police veterans page on my Facebook and asked if anyone had any information about the accident. And this was going on when we had I think the Newmans were doing their suing Slater and Gordon over at TAC payout. So I said, just happens that I was initially involved in the incident. And it just started from that. I introduced it to Peter, who was just a lovely, lovely guy, and just offered up any help I could get, and that's how we started.
When you say you were initially involved in this, you were the first person on call to go and investigate that, and you were called off the investigation almost as you arrived, and maybe you thought, wow, something's going on here. Would that be vaguely correct?
It is vague. It is correct, Sam. I was. I was on a police unit that day in Sorrento when this accident happened. So we were initially given the job by Intergraph or AAA to attend. Another police unit, which was based out of Riot that stage, we were down in Sorrento when this happened. They've come up. Sure, we went lights and bells on the way to this. Come up as a kid being hit by a car, as you would. And then as we're trying to make our way through the madness and the traffic that is Sorrento at that time of year, another unit came up and then said, look, we've got it, we'll handle it, we'll do it. So they took the job.
And I know you're not disparaging the Rye Police Station, but as you were called on to do it first and had the information at hand, it seemed strange, did it not, that you were suddenly relieved of your responsibility and they took it over. Obviously, I am suggesting obviously because higher authorities than you and the Rye Police Station had said, we're just going to get some other people to handle this and just leave it with us.
Look, yes. And the more we've dug into
Political interference.
Correct. The more we've looked at this over the last sort of 18 months, the more and more things are starting to drop into place. Not so much from the initial police that attended and did what they did and didn't do a very good job.
Yep.
And then from then on in, it starts going higher and higher up the chain of what people didn't do. Or what they did, which was very strange.
Wait, we should mention exactly who we're talking about. We're talking about young Ryan Newman, who was had a collision, one way or the other, with the Premier, who had his SUV, says being driven by his wife Catherine, but then it says in a report it said it was either being driven by Dan Andrews or Catherine Andrews, which seemed really strange. If that's the first thing that you're not sure of, it seems to go downhill from there. If you can't nominate or decide who was driving the car, which leaves it open, of course, Scott, to the fact that I'm not saying this, well, probably I'm suggesting this, but if you can't determine who was driving the car, would it be because someone was driving it and when someone turned up the other person wasn't in the driver's seat and they tried to pull the wool over someone's eyes? That's the only conclusion you can get if it comes out in a report that either one of two people were driving. That seems really strange in the first instance.
Well, it does. The way to establish whether someone was driving a car is done by the police there. It's quite simple to do. I mean, if you look at this case, for example, I think Daniel Andrews is 6'3".
Yep.
He ain't a midget. She's quite small, his wife, so it would have been very easy to have a look at the seating arrangement, the mirror placement in the cars, and it would have been quite quick to establish who was driving the car.
And of course, and I was about to say we should let people know exactly, should have done this at the start, but this is about the collision of Dan Andrews' car or the government car, either being driven by his wife or him, that collided with Ryan Newman, and the Andrews family, the Andrews team, suggested that Ryan T-boned their car, and there's plenty of evidence by independent people. One of the independent people was. I've got it written down here. Let me just see. One of the independent people was the head of the Victorian Police Traffic Division, Dr. Raymond Shuey. He said it was quite extraordinary that you could come to the conclusion that Ryan Newman T-boned, judging by the damage to the car and the extent of the injuries. It'd be quite extraordinary to come to the conclusion that that's how it happened, that Ryan Newman T-boned the Premier. Probably, absolutely likely the other way around.
Well, unless Ryan can defy the laws of physics, I can't see how that could happen. One thing I'll say with Ray Shuey, though, I don't think too many people know, like, Ray was a Vietnam vet. He joined the police force about 1969, I think. He rose all the way up the ranks to, second in charge of the police force. He was in charge of traffic. If you look back at his career as in charge of traffic, there was a marked reduction in the road toll. His policies and stuff, he's a brilliant man.
Yep.
He passed away, obviously. He's got a doctorate in road safety. He's even implemented road safety programs in a lot of countries across Europe. He won the Australian of the Year. He's the Senior Australian of the Year. So he's no slouch in his expertise. His report is amazing to read, and I recommend people go out and have a look at it, because if you want to know what happened, That's how it happened.
So Scott, the veracity of what he says is even more marked and stark as a result of what you've just said.
Absolutely.
So the absolute failure to follow procedure is what is suspicious about this case, starting from the people who arrived on the scene after you were told to just back off, and the chain of command up and up until this has gone on for 10 years at least. And I don't know if people are trying to stall because the statute of limitations, I don't know, is there any veracity to that the statute of limitations will kick in soon and it'll all be null and void and it'll all be swept under the carpet? Is that why Daniel Andrews was said to have had a heart attack or a stroke so that he can now say that he can't remember anything about it? All these conspiracy theories seem to be adding weight to the fact that this is really a corrupt and dishonest investigation into what is the real cause of what's going on.
Well, one, to answer your first part of your question, all the traffic stuff's gone. The statute of limitations has run out. We can't do anything with traffic. Saying that, so the accident circumstances and stuff like that, can't do anything about it. But what we can do is that information that was said by both Catherine and Dan Andrews in their formal written statements, that's what we can go after, and that's what we're doing with pervert the course of justice.
So perjury.
That doesn't go away. That can last.
A very serious case when you have to swear on whatever Bible or whatever thing you swear on. Perjury is a very serious, particularly from the top law officer or the top person running the state that you live in.
Absolutely.
I presume we're saying he's innocent until proven guilty, obviously.
I think that's what we have to say at this stage, yes.
Yeah, and is the fact that the statute of limitations is up for the traffic investigation part of it, is that thwarting any proper investigation, or is it generally out there that people know what's happened and whether it's the charge of perjury would still be as heavy as being responsible for the accident in the first place?
Well, look, it's incredibly serious. I mean, what it's basically saying, he's lying. That's what the perjury is saying. What he's saying in his sworn written statement didn't occur. So the onus is on us to actually then go, well, here, we'll refute all these allegations. Sorry, what he's saying has occurred. We'll come back the other way and say this is what we think's occurred.
And they have very good form on their side, the Andrews government, who lied and deceived and were corrupt for the whole of the Andrews tenure of office. And probably it's still continuing now under the guise of the unelected Premier who took over from him, Jacinta Allen. So we're living in a state of almost anarchy. We're living in a dystopian state.
Yep.
And this is at the core. You can do all the industrial relations and all the community projects and government projects that have funded, and the fact we're $200 billion in debt. You can do all that, but to have a matter to be swept under the carpet to protect the top law enforcement officer, which I presume Daniel Andrews' buck stops with him in every department. This is more serious than all those other public works and things that people can either vote him in or out of. This is to personally try and escape what might be a very serious incident if proven that he was responsible because he's perjured himself. This is more important than all those, I believe.
Absolutely. One thing, Sam, I've discovered in all this, and which sort of gives me the shits, to be honest, is the fact that Victoria Police and both IBAC consistently run their spokesperson out and say this matter's been fully investigated. Thoroughly investigated, I think, is their words they say. Now, I don't know what your definition of thorough is, but I know mine. Like, we've got no witnesses we've ever spoken to here. We've got independent witnesses who've come forward, and we've taken statements from them. Victoria Police or IBAC's never spoken to them. I was never spoken to by IBAC. None of the police who attended were ever spoken to by IBAC. So their definition of thorough investigation is I can't see how they've conducted any investigation.
IBAC meaning the Independent Board of Anti-Corruption. IBAC, an acronym, and So it's
Government integrity is...
so when the government investigates itself for dishonesty, you can usually say that that's probably a pretty biased investigation that will come out and will only be slanted and weighted on the side of forgiveness or softening down whatever the penalty might be. Now, have you received any pushback from the police, from political interests about you? Have you been threatened? Have you been warned? Have you been, you've spoken to the Premier? Have you had your family? Have people suggested, I'd back off this if I was you, Scott, this is going to do you no good at all?
There's been a few people who've said that, Sam, said don't stick your head up and get involved in this because they'll chop it off. Unofficially, you hear the rumour mills coming that the Labor Party spin machine aren't very happy with us. That's been fed back to us. Both myself, both Ryan, both Rowan Wen, and a few of the others involved.
Yep.
So who knows? You know, that the rumour come back to us that they're going to try to dig some dirt on us. Good luck, because I don't think there's too much of my life that's very interesting to them. But
so they're the legacies of political life. I see. Well, the recent vice, the deputy deputy opposition leader, Sam Groth, he went in all wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, and suddenly they
didn't last long, did it? No.
Well, they swooped on him and found out that this is what I say to me. They say, "Would you ever thought of going to politics, Sam?" I said, "I'd spend half the year addressing things that I've done, which I have nothing, not ashamed of any, I might be ashamed of them, but I've nothing to hide. But the whole of your political life would be knocking back innuendo and what you've done, which would take away from the focus. And that's probably what they're trying to stonewall. How have they threatened you?
Well, it's only through friends of friends.
But that's how it won't do you any good. What does that mean? It'd do you a hell of a lot of good if you're a private investigator and you come up with the goods and get Ryan probably what he deserves.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I tell you what, you'd have 90% of the Victorian community behind you, even if you are a Labor sympathiser. This is red hot. It appears to be red hot. And
it's funny though, like for example, like we've had people who are involved with the Labor Party get in contact with us and give us information about certain things, but none of them have had the balls to put it down on paper, or they can give you hearsay or give you a bit of rumour mill or tell you something, but they don't. None of them want to go down on paper with it.
Was this? I've got the wrong details. Wasn't only when he was on his way back from the party at Lindsay Fox's? Was it? No, this has nothing to do with it. That's right.
I think this happened.
Someone said he was driving back from Lindsay Fox's, and that's what he was pissed there, and that's what they said. And I said, I didn't realise he was driving back from that, because why would his wife been with him? Yeah. Anyhow, so this all happened after. But the big thing I'll probably say, Sam, is the fact that any road accident that police go to, if you die within 28 days of that road accident, it goes on the road toll. So then you've got to get major collision, and all these other bodies have got to be involved. So you go to an accident where you've got a poor Ryan who's been knocked down on the ground. You treat it like, the air ambulance is called, they're landing on the footy ground down the road. You treat it like he's going to die. You go to the absolute extreme of everything. You don't do the bare minimum with this sort of stuff. You've got to do the whole shoot and match. And none of that was done from day one up until last year, with other stuff sort of happening with this. So it's been amazing just looking at it. And to your point, and I know this has happened, you mightn't like to concede or just not tell me this, but I assume a lot of senior people above you who have been involved in this would be told it wouldn't be advisable to rock the boat because you are senior police people, and the government appoints you, and if you just value the livelihood of what you're doing, I wouldn't get too involved in this, or you might find yourself being overlooked at the next promotion.
Correct. So I think I mentioned it in the podcast, but once you get to a certain level in Victoria Police, you're on government contract. So Hence why we saw Shane Patton and we saw Patterson get the arse last year. That's just how it's very, very. It's a political organisation. I know they say they are very apolitical. They are not. The whole joint is pretty well dictated to by the political people in power at that stage. Saying that, I've had serving police members now. Obviously, none of them can say anything because they'll get their backside kicked.
Yep.
Fully support everything that's happening with this.
Are the Newmans, they've engaged you professionally to do this?
No, look,
you don't have to tell me your business, but
that's okay. No, look,
so why are you doing this? Who's paying you to do this?
There's no money to be made in this. Well, I mean, look, from a defamation point of view, for what's going on with Andrews and Ryan at the moment, it's like what they used to say: no one wins in a defamation. You both lose in a defamation. So there's no money. Everyone seems to think that Ryan got some super payout from the TAC. It was pittance, really, what he got last year through Slater and Gordon. Sorry, so there's no money to be made in this. The Newmans aren't cashed up by any stretch of the imagination. So there's me and a few others who are working at zero, trying to just help them. The main reason is I felt a little bit guilty at the start, being that we wouldn't be sitting here talking if I'd probably gone to it, or my offsider I was working with on the day. I wouldn't be here talking to it. So there's a little bit of thing for me where I want to get back and help. One, if it was one of my kids that were hit by a car, I'd like the matter to be fully investigated too. And as I sort of mentioned a bit earlier, like Peter, the father, he's just such a nice bloke. Like you just want to help the guy. And he's copped so much vitriol on social media that he's a grifter and stuff. So all that gives me the irrits as well.
So so Slater and Gordon, and I'm not suggesting that they would be. I am suggesting they'd be doing the right thing by their client, who is Andrews, but they seem to be only in the fact that they're acting on behalf of their client, complicit in a pretty ordinary payout or a pretty ordinary financial deal to have this go away. Now, I'm not suggesting they're doing anything wrong. I'm suggesting they're doing the right, acting on the best interest. But would they be under investigation for? They couldn't be under investigation for getting the best deal for their client. But it seems to be pretty rushed and pretty intimidatory.
Well, I thought even back in policing days, I think Slater and Gordon were always sort of maybe Labor politically aligned anyway. So
that is correct.
And that was some questions on how they got
that
involved.
Is actually correct. Yes,
probably factual. Yeah.
Yep.
But no, there's nothing in relation to that. I mean, that matter's been done and dusted, but I suppose the point trying to make is that, he didn't walk out with squillions of dollars, that's for sure.
No. Why can't we, when you say Dan Andrews is 6'3" and his wife is not, if you don't have any photographic evidence of who was driving the car and no one checked to see where the seat was or the height of the seat or where the steering wheel was it in or out or what? A quick snapshot of the things that, to your mind, the quick snapshot of the things that were overlooked from the get-go. A, no one took any photographs. B, no one breathalyzed anyone. C, no one wondered why they didn't ring an ambulance for 6 minutes. D, what are some of the actual things that stick out and you think, my God, this is not right?
There's lots. I think we conservatively came up with 35.
Yep.
Not that I can probably peel them off the top of my head.
No.
But basically, you go to an accident scene, so you're looking at one. You
preserve the scene.
Correct.
For a start.
So, like the first thing is you want to take photos. Like the only photo that we've ever exists is that black and white grainy one of the windscreen caved in.
Yep. That
was taken down the road back at his Airbnb. That's the only photo that exists. So we've got no measurements. We've got no witnesses. No witness statements. None of that sort of stuff was taken. No experts called in. No highway patrol. That's their bread and butter. That's what they do. These other police are only general duties.
So someone must have directed this procedure to be not followed. Someone must have.
It's hard. To be honest with you, Sam, it's hard to say. Like you can look at a couple of errors at the start. Maybe like we all make mistakes. There's a lot, but when you start compounding them up, not so much on the. I mean, obviously there's some errors made on the day. Errors made afterwards, like if you're doing an accident report as policing, and you're submitting it by the end of your shift, there's a supervisor whose job is to read that accident report going, hold on a sec, you guys, you haven't done this, and this. Bang, all that should have been picked up on. There's internal stuff with Victoria Police that anything to do with AFL players, regos that are marked, celebrities, stuff like that. They're all tagged on the database.
Yep.
So if any copper sits there and types in Sam Newman, I want to see where Sam lives, it'll be flagged on the system, and you'll get a please explain. So government vehicles would be the same. So all this stuff should have been taken through. And look, you got an opposition leader at the time involved in a near fatal accident.
Yep.
Everyone and their dog should have been there.
Yep. So, Scott, the Andrews team has Slater and Gordon. Who is looking after the interests legally? What attorneys, what lawyers are looking after the interests of the Newman family? And how long is this going to be strung out until either the Newmans run out of money and can't afford people to defend them, or how is the GoFundMe? Is that a legitimate thing to GoFundMe?
Yep.
How is all that going?
Yep.
And who is taking this case on behalf of the Newmans, and where is it headed, do you think?
All right, good question again, mate. Look, so basically, go back to your first question is that they have got and look, to be honest with you, I can't even remember the gentleman's name. I haven't met him. He's working on, I think, Low Bono, which is nothing in the legal fraternities for free. No one's going to do nothing for you for nothing. That's just the way that works. So they're on Low Bono in relation to this, but because there's two things, we've got the civil stuff going.
Low Bono meaning they'll get paid if there's a result, but just a marginal amount, a nominal amount for their work and effort put in.
Correct. So that's going with the criminal.
That seems extraordinary, Scott, that we haven't got a high-profile lawyer or a team of lawyers who are on the other side of those politics that haven't put their hand up and said, no, we'll take this case. That seems extraordinary, mate.
It is, mate. And also you think about it, like we're subpoenaing documents and stuff we can to help this case out, or we did with the Slater and Gordon stuff. For us to do that, it's for us to subpoena one bit of document from internally from Victoria Police, you can kiss 10, 15 grand goodbye in a heartbeat. That's just the way it all works. So the money gets swallowed up. So they started a GoFundMe to help pay for this, which is done all right. I think they've raised about $100,000, but in the scheme of things, I think it's about 110 now. But in the scheme of things, everything costs money when you start to go down the legal part. It just gobbles up everything you do. Yeah. Obviously, we paid for an audio expert in New South Wales to pull apart the Triple O call Dan Andrews' mate. Some expert in New South Wales, which you can imagine how much that cost.
Yeah, that's right. I think Channel 9 investigated that and said the words were Andrews came over the line and said, "We've hit him," not "he's hit us." My goodness, we've hit him. Some investigative reporter from, 60 Minutes or Current Affair or something, I just read that, said that they found that, we've hit him.
Yeah, that got leaked. So, I think Seb Costello was the one doing that. But
well, how can this go on and on without any real top firm taking up the cause of the Newmans? How can this will end up? They will snowball you and stonewall you until.
Exactly right.
Well, why hasn't I haven't contributed to the GoFundMe page, but if in fact you need $500,000 to get this up and running, I don't know why we don't put out, and I don't know why Victorians, in the interests of justice, I don't know Dan Andrews personally, but it wouldn't matter if someone is trying to stonewall you and disputing everything and won't make things available. If you're not making things available and you're making it hard, what is the reason for that? That seems to imply guilt just by the fact that you don't want an open investigation, doesn't it?
Well, you would think so. Like stonewalling is a really good word. Like everything we've sort of gone through legally to obtain documents through Victoria Police, yes. They stonewall you and they just try to wear you down the fact that because everything costs a shitload of money to do. Every subpoena we're making is costing thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, and if they continue putting up these barriers in front of it, it just eats through any sort of money you can raise anyway. It goes so quick.
Well, Scott, if people want to acquaint themselves with the 35 things that have been overlooked in a pretty serious investigation, they can go and listen to the
podcast. They can, yeah.
On true
So
crime.
it's the Bike Boy True Crime podcast. So I think so Spotify, YouTube,
Yep.
Facebook.
And is the GoFundMe page still up and running?
There
or
is a
it-
GoFundMe page is
Yeah.
up and running. So I think it's the Bike Boy. I think it's on the GoFundMe. So if
Yeah.
anyone wants to chip
If
in,
we-
it's all going to help. Believe me, it's going to the right cause. Just I suppose, and just one other thing, Sam, quickly, is the fact that what we're going with this is we're going to go to Mike Bush with brief
Yep,
of
the
evidence.
new New Zealand copper.
Yep. So
Yep.
we'll. I've heard good things about Mike. He's a bit more. Not sort of politically aligned, maybe, with some of the other chief commissioners. That's what we'll soon find out.
What you want to remember about Mike is that he'd been appointed by another Labor Premier, and he's come over from New Zealand with his family, and he's ensconced in Victoria here. You reckon he's going to put up a bit of an argument, do you, or he's going to go softball on it because his job will be in jeopardy if he gets appointed by a government organisation?
All jobs are in jeopardy at that sort of level, but it'll be a good test for Mr. Bush to see whether, look, okay, let's do this for Victorians. Let's just open this up, not reopen the investigation because there's been no bloody investigation to start off with. Let's just do one. All the documents we've done, we're happy to hand it to them and say, there you go. It's not a time-consuming or manpower thing or a money thing. We're hoping that, and if that we'll see how he goes, mate. We'll see how he goes.
So if be a big long shot, if 50,000 Victorians, there's how many of us in Victoria? 4 million. If 50,000 put in $10, I think that's 500,000. If 20,000 put in $10, that's 200. We might get to a resolution whether he's guilty or he's not guilty, but at least we would have gone through the process, and the law not only has to be done, it has to be seen to be done.
Oh, look, Ryan needs this conclusion. You know, the poor kid suffered enough through the last.
Well, he was 15 when it started. He'd be now 27 already.
And he's still.
He'd be buggered.
Yeah, he's still buggered. And again, hence part of the reason why we're doing this is to help this poor bloke. He's had a rough life that the general public don't realise.
Scott, it is a disgrace that the opposition, which is the Andrews side of things, will not cooperate. If you're not cooperating, you can rest assured there's a reason you're not cooperating, and it is criminal. This, as I say, they've got good form on their side with Ian Cook.
Ian Cook, yeah.
They've got good form on their side with the whole of the Victorian electorate. The corruption and dishonesty of that government is unparalleled, probably in the world.
Yep.
If you have a look at all the investigations and all the things that they were responsible for and weren't responsible for, particularly the COVID thing, that has probably set this country and state back decades by their mismanagement, incompetence and sheer bloody mindedness of all the people who work for them and all the people they've employed. And it's not getting any better by the unelected Premier, who's got a completely jaundiced view of what Victorians might be interested in. Voice to Parliament, treaties. How about we concentrate on the things that 98% of the population are concerned with, and that is law and order, litter, machete attacks, immigration, all those sort of things. I mean, it just goes on and on. We're being run by dumb clucks. We're actually being run by fuckwits.
Yep, I would agree. I don't know whether the Labor government sort of realise how much public angst is over this particular issue. It is super popular out in social media. We've got a lot of positive feedback. It's 20-1 positive to negative, without a shadow of a doubt.
But the way the opposition's going, mate, in this state, when we go to the polls again, the Labor government will probably be returned because no one knows any of the strong-arm political points that the opposition, the Liberal opposition...
Your time to move then, mate.
Yeah. I hope Pauline Hanson starts up a branch down here in Victoria, One Nation.
You're starting to do all right now.
And rightly so. Scott Hanley, thank you very much for doing this.
Sam. Thanks for having me on.
No, push on with it. As I say, if you want to contribute to the Bike Boy GoFundMe page. You can look it up on the
Yep, it's on the GoFundMe website.
website. $10 from a...
Anything anyone can chip in is going to help.
Yep.
Definitely going to help.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sam.
Yeah.
Cheers.